are feeling. Anytime people in public service are feeling stressed or sometimes overwhelmed or have just like big workloads, big goals, lots of change, disruption. Oh, how about a pandemic? How about riding the streets? How about war? I mean, it's crazy times. So, crazy times are perfect for this message because I'm going to provide for you some very specific ideas on how you can, number one, find out if you're feeling burnout signs, symptoms, and how to overcome those, how to push back burnout so that you feel more present, more positive, more motivated. And then I'm going to share with you some really cool evidence based mindsets that are shown to be the top three energizers at work. You know what? Let's do this. Let me share my screen because I have our agenda up ready to go. So I'll just do it like this. Okay, so we're gonna first, I forgot. Yeah, we're gonna look at this, what I call Wittawickus, and that is why don't I do what I know I should? It is such a common scenario when we feel overwhelmed or stressed, or I mean, just in general, even if we're not overwhelmed and stressed, it can often be like, God, where is my motivation to do the things that I know will benefit me or my loved ones or my members? So, we're going to talk about motivation specifically and how to find more of it. Then, like I said, be feeling burned out. We got to get rid of that. Number three, we're going to talk about the three evidence-based energizers for when you're at work, something that you can do anytime, anywhere, and just go, you know what, I'm going to reflect on this. And hardcore empirical evidence shows that that actually is the top three mindset energizers at work. And then we're going to talk about a really important question for people that have a lot on their to-do list, like you, a lot of responsibilities, and oftentimes sandwiched into other people's competing responsibilities. So we're going to talk about how can you become more accomplished, or should we approach it as how can I feel more accomplished? Okay. And then finally, we're going to come away with a takeaway plan for you to take these ideas back into your day today and for this forever. And a way I think that you can share and utilize these ideas to help positively energize the people around you. Okay. Now, listen, though, this is not just a show. There's going to be lots of interaction in this program. So I want you to put into the chat box because really I want your voice to be heard through this program. Most speakers, you know, that oftentimes they think it's on the sage from the stage, but in reality, many times the answers are out there with you. And I'm just a facilitator. So I would love your voice to be heard in this presentation. If you have questions, if you want clarifications, or even if you have ideas for your fellow teammates on how you've done something I suggested that really worked for you, just pop it into the chat. And I would love to discuss that as we go. All right, so to get us started, make sure that everybody's in interaction mode. I want everybody to get ready. Chat box, get your chat fingers ready. You're going to enter in right now. What is your favorite land-based animal? What's your favorite animal that lives on the land? It can be anything. Oh, Dina, you're so, I mean, you guys are fast. Dog, yes. Cat, I don't know. I'm not big. I'm teasing. Polar bear, wow, I love it. Yes. Giraffe, elephant, an ocelot. Is this like a reindeer looking kind of funny long necked deer? I think. Not sure. You guys, a sloth. I sometimes I am a sloth. But yes. Oh, my wife's monkeys, Christy. Yes, anything with a monkey, she's so there, right? Okay, I love it. My favorite land animal is they're kind of ferocious. They're very manly. It's my two little Maltipoos, Maltese poodle mixes. I mean, sometimes I walk around, get them some cool hunting jackets, put them on. We walk around like, yeah, that's right, alpha males. Chickens, Shelly, that's funny. Also, too, Kim, that's awesome. My youngest daughter, her favorite land animal are chickens. And our neighbor has a chicken named Betty White. It's an all white fluffy. It's hysterical. But thank you for doing that, everybody. I can already tell this is going to be a super fun discussion today. You guys jumped in full steam ahead. Love it. Okay. So, all right, let's jump into the content because I only have an hour with you and I want to make sure that I give you everything I promised. So, we're going to jump into, okay, beating burnout. Okay, what is burnout? Okay, but before I describe it, I want to tease you with something. I want to do a check-in with you to see how you're doing right now. Okay, so you don't have to put your answers into the chat if you don't want to. This is totally, you can not put your answers in. You do not have to. But if you want to, if you're willing to share, I encourage you to do it. Okay, so we're going to start with question one. All right, the question is, lately, working with people is a strain for me. Now, I'm talking about, like, let's just say over the past few months, you feel like it takes more effort. It's just like you're not as willing or want to work with other people as much. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're friends here. You know, we can just think about, do you feel like an increased resistance to working with people? All right. So if you want to put your answers into the chat, please do. Oh, look at that, man. You guys are so good. You guys are so good. You know, and I love it. See, because whenever you do, okay, all right, Selena, I like you three, but more social interactions, not necessarily working on a project. That's a great differentiation. And we're going to talk about this idea of connection and how it relates to at work with your members and your teammates and at home and your personal life, because it can be quite different, just like Selena says. You know, I love this because we are getting a tremendous response. You're fantastic. We're getting people that say, you know what? I never feel like working with people is a strain for me. And then we're getting people that are saying, you know, frequently these days, working with people has become more of a strain for me. And I'm here to tell you, if you are like sometimes frequently, even always feel like it's more of a strain now, you are not alone. There, I tell you, I do this kind of thing probably 60 to 70 times a year with different groups. And so it gives me a great way to get a kind of understand different how different cultures, different environments, different jobs are feeling. And you know what? I get to cross pollinate the results. And so, my experience with this first question of hardworking adults is that people are averaging around 3.5 on this scale. That sometimes, or even frequently, I feel like it's more of a strain for me to work with people. And that can be for many reasons, but it's an important distinction because when we identify what probably is causing that, you can address it. And then so that way you can wake up and when you want it, when you interact with people, it's going to take less effort. It's going to be more fun, more rewarding. Yeah. And I tell you, I want that just as much as you do. People, listen, I tell you, I'm not the sage from the stage. I fall victim to the same. Honestly, I have become the person who I aspire to help about every 6 months or so. It's the nature of the world that we live in. But the cool thing is I get to attend all my own presentations. It's helpful. So we're going to talk about those specific answers in a minute, but I want to dig deeper and understand you and help you understand yourself a little better. Question two, lately I feel more emotionally just exhausted. So like the motivation that was there isn't there. You're quicker on the crankiness thing. And you know, it just life feels harder. You just don't have as much energy. If you feel that way, more so over the last few or several months than before, or put your answer in the chat box. Yeah, excellent. So, yeah, it's all right. I feel like this is the one that gets the highest numbers on average. So when I ask people this question, they're like, "Holy cow, man! Is there a 9 or a 10 on this scale?" I was like, "That's not something you want to be an overachiever on." But I love the fact that there's so much variety even in these answers because we all are individuals. However, I want you to think about too that we all face so much together as a team, as a society, that it's normal for a little bit of variation. But I've definitely seen the trend of people feel just much more emotionally exhausted. But thank you for answering that. That was great. And honestly, if I look at your answers in comparison, it's tracking with, I think, many people in similar situations. All right, number three, lastly or lately, I feel my efforts at work are just not paying off as like they used to. Like I'm putting effort in, but I'm not making as much progress. Do you feel that way? This is an important one as well. So basically, I want to tell you too that these questions are pulled off some of the most academically supported stress, emotion, burnout, thriving, motivation, assessments, instruments. So these are for real questions. So when you answer these, it's going to give excellent supported insight. All right. So do you feel like you're working hard but not making as much progress? All right. So let's throw your answer in there if you're willing to. You know, when you look at this, I see that there's actually a common scenario that I see as well a lot is that with the disruption and working from home and being not only socially distanced but emotionally distanced, it really challenges people with their work processes, interruption. And you know, we're disrupted. Most everyone is disrupted now. So I want you to start really thinking about have my efforts. I'm putting in. If I put in the same effort, am I getting the same progress on your to-do list, on your key projects, on your relationships, on your reports? So I just want you to think about that. Okay. Thank you for doing that. You guys are killing it actually in the interaction side. I'm like actually really impressed. And that's not me sucking up, it's just a pure observation. All right. Okay. So, because here's the thing, when you look at burnout, there are three things that predict burnout. Okay. So, if we go to the far left, emotional exhaustion is one of the things that we know predicts burnout. If you're emotionally exhausted too much or too long, it starts to grind away at your inner drive. Okay, then the second, the middle, the yellowish is depersonalization. Now, depersonalization is a kind of a strange word, but here's an easy way to think about it. And this is definitely a predictor of burnout. And if you look at the research on motivation, this is one of the things that probably one of the top three things that crushes your intrinsic motivation. Okay, so here's my question for you. How often recently have you felt like you're going it alone? Because if you feel like you're going it alone more at work, and if you feel like you're going it alone more in your personal life, then that really is a predictor of burnout and makes it much harder to get and stay motivated. We're going to address that. All right, and then the last one is personal accomplishment. So if you think about our answers to the three questions that you just responded to, lately working with people is a strain for me. That's the depersonalization. So it's just harder for you to feel connected with other people. And that's a symptom, right, of burnout. So lately I feel more emotionally exhausted. That one's super clear. And then lately I feel like my efforts are not paying off. When you think about what creates motivation and what creates burnout and lack of motivation, this personal accomplishment one is a big one. And it's been so much harder these days because there's so much disruption. So if you're pushing at your 100% effort and you're getting just 70% of the progress that you normally make, or even worse, if you're pushing 110% effort on something and it doesn't, even if you do accomplish it, because of the craziness, the miscommunication, the lack of clarity in our world, people are like, that's not really what we needed you to do. That can be really demoralizing. So those three things just give you some quick insight into if you're experiencing the true symptoms of burnout. Are you exhausted more? Are you feeling more alone? Or are you working hard but not getting as much done? Okay, so I just dig the hole deep for my audience so that we know these are the challenges, but now we're going to work on really fixing those issues, improving your energy, improving your sense of connectedness and who's got your back, and then improving your ability to be super productive in disrupted times. Does that sound good? Yes? Okay, good. All right, so actually, this is a real simple graph. And I think we're going to just really quickly go over this because in my understanding of what your role is, what your job is, what your stressors are with my pre-conference calls, I think I've got a good picture of this. Okay, so we're going to go right here. Okay, so I want you to look at this graph. And if you look at the top left-hand part, the top left-hand part is the people who are highly engaged at work. Then if you look all the way to the bottom and all the way to the right, those are the people who are really highly burned out. So that blue trend line shows that on the top left, those people are highly engaged and they're also have lower burnout. And if you look at the bottom right, those people are have high burnout and they're not really engaged in their work. This is an important issue because most researchers will tell you that that blue line shows us that when people are engaged with their work, they have lower burnout. And if they are burned out, they typically aren't engaged in their work. But I'm sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. If you look at the top right-hand section, that's showing that people who are highly engaged are also significantly burned out. And those people have a very high intention to leave their job, leave where they work. Those are the people there's so many people right now in that state. But let's look at this data from Yale University. 1,000 working adults, what they found was that the peak performers on the top left, high engagement, low burnout, those people, there was about 40%, about 4 out of every 10 people felt that way. All right, so then if you look right below that, there's low engagement, low burnout. These are the apathetic people. They're not burned out and they don't really care that much. They're just going through the motions. There's not very many of those. Then if you look at the bottom right, low engagement, high burnout, those are our people who are trying hard but struggling. Okay, but then if you look at the top right, I think this is where I put most of my effort, because these are the people who are engaged. They're trying hard. They want to do it. They're good at what they do, but they're also burning out, and they also have a very high intention to leave where they work. And I think most of the time, people that leave are just really, they're leaving because of burnout, not because of the work that they do. And to me, that's a real what's the word I'm looking for? It's a travesty. Because once you get in an organization, build a team, build the resources, build your connections, build your processes. If you have to go restart that, that's a lot of time that you could be helping people that's wasted. So I want you to identify this. Okay. If you that group, that high engagement, high burnout group, this data, Yale University says it was almost about 20%. So almost 1 in 5 people, almost 20%. And this was in 2018. So let me ask you, if we go now to our chat box, before we go, I want you to think about this question. So before the COVID pandemic, about 20% of people at an organization felt were engaged, but almost were burning out and thinking about leaving. What do you think that percentage is for people that do your job right now? So people that do your work, how many of them do you think what percentage of the people that do your work are good at their work, engaged, but are really at risk for burnout and leaving? All right, I want you to put that percentage in the chat box. Oh yeah. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. When you engage in this, it makes it so much better for us. It's wonderful. Okay, so I'm seeing a low of about 45% or 40% and a high of frequently 90%. So let's just say that's about 65, 70%. If you think about the contrast between 65 and 75% versus 19%, that's an enormous increase. Now, I know they didn't do 1,085 of people who do your job, but I just want you to know that when I work with other groups and present and connect and converse with them, I find that your numbers are about right. So I see a trend here that obviously we're in a state to where burnout is a real significant problem. And the research backs that up too. So, all right, so that's enough of that. Let's go. That's the problem. Let's go to the solutions. All right, so if you look at the research on resiliency, on well-being, on motivation, on engagement, there are really 4 things that if you master can create amazing energy and resiliency. All right, so let's start at the top left with the C, connections. So I want you to ask these questions to yourself. And these are great focusing questions to get you to see where you could really improve your resiliency, your energy, your productivity, right? Okay, so do you support and are supported by other human beings? So like, do you feel like a part of something? Do you support them? Do they support you? How do you feel about that right now? Because, if you put this on a scale of 1 to 100, anybody I think who's under that 70% mark could really benefit from strengthening your sense of connection and support with other people. And I'll give you a little foreshadowing. especially other people who do the job that you do. I see, whenever I do dig into the research and I look at what truly helps us and what do we think that helps us that doesn't really help us, and what do we know sabotages us. And when you look at the research on what happens to people in challenging times, connection is, I think, more important now than ever. Okay, so go over to the top right, the E, environment. Does your physical work environment support you? Do you feel encouraged in it? Does it motivate you, energize you? Or are you having to put, in my case, like push kid toys out of the way and, oh, I got bills on the stacked up on the dining room table, right? Or, you know, what is, or even in your work environment, are you set up in a place that when you get there, it encourages you to be your best? So I'm a big believer in setting up your work environment in a way that motivates you. And the crazy thing is it's different it's very individual. I did a cool research review on the leading creative people in history. And I looked at how they set up their day. When were they at their productive best? So if you look at Agatha Christie, she has sold more books. More of her books have been sold than any other author in history, over 1 billion books. And how was she so prolific and amazing? How did she produce that great work? Well, she considered herself a wife and a mom first. Those are her priorities. But whenever there was a lull, she would sneak off into the back. She had a little she shed, and she would sneak off there. No one would know where she was, and she would become a totally immersed and not distracted in her work. Contrast that with F. Scott Fitzgerald, famous author. He wrote a 120,000 word book. Most books are about 50,000. And he did it in 5 months while working in the barracks in the army in the evenings after his army workday. 120 loud soldiers, total chaos, right? So I just think it just depends on who you are. So as a resiliency stress guy, I want to encourage you to think about right now, how can you set up your environment so that it fits your productive workflow better? Yeah, I know so many people who work in public service are service oriented, and sometimes that means you don't take care of yourself as well as you could and need to. So think about how you set up your environment and look for tweaks on how to do that. I have a whole nother program on that, but today we're going to go a little bit more specific in one of the other areas. Okay, so if you look at the bottom, W, well-being. I know that you have a great, you're really pushing well-being in your workplace. And I tell you, that is one of the most important aspects in today's world because of emotional exhaustion. Everybody on the average on this group, your group, you, was very high in emotional exhaustion. And one of the fastest ways to reduce that is to not only, put a little white space, a little break in your thinking and in your days, take a break, but it's also to positively renew your physical well-being. And there, you've got some great resources on how to do that. Okay, because when physical energy, emotional energy is low, so is motivation. They track together. You've experienced this before. I mean, think about it. You wake up after a night, if you have kids, young kids, you wake up, you were interrupted in your sleep, you wake up, what's your motivation the next day? If you went out with friends and had a few too many adult beverages, what's your motivation the next day? Right. So I just want you to think about how can how can you develop your well-being? All right, number 4, and it's mindsets. And I believe this is the best, fastest fix for most people. This putting effort into mastering your mindsets when you're under stress is the fastest path to better resiliency, more focus, clarity, more sustained motivation. And so psychological resiliency is driven by individual mindset. So my question for you is how resilient do you think your thinking patterns are right now? When stress happens, are you thinking in a way that's going to turn that stress into a positive motivator, make you proactive? Or is it going to feel like maybe overloaded, overwhelmed, short circuit? You either got to procrastinate or you just get busy on other things to kind of distract yourself. And those are the 2 common responses that I find myself doing. So it's good to identify that. So we're going to move into this whole idea of resilient mindsets and how you can instantly apply them within yourself, but also share them with other people and motivate them. Okay. Top 3 energizers at work. Okay, so before I show you my little cool guys graph, let's do this. I love research. I'm a researcher. I'm a randomized, double blind, placebo controlled kind of guy. I love research so much. I sometimes have inappropriate thoughts about research. Like, oh, research, you're so pretty. No, I mean, yes. Okay. I know you think I'm weird, but I want you to think about yourself. I want you to put yes in the chat box. If you ever have looked at a spreadsheet, a bar chart, a report, any kind of data like that, and thought to yourself, now that is beautiful. All right. Put that in the chat box. Yes. Yes, Sarah, with exclamation points. Oh, yeah. Brita, you guys are great. You guys are doing so good. When it comes to spreadsheets, I excel. Bump, bump. I love it. Yes. All right. So, Amy, no. Marie, no. All right. I love the fact that you say no. Okay. Because I want people, if you listen, if I ask you a question, do you feel this way? You can say no. All right. I want you to think about this, though. And here's one of my core concepts for you. Clarity is energy in a complex world. If I was listening to a speech by Malcolm Gladwell, he's one of my favorite thinkers, and he said something I'll never forget. He said that the people who are going to really matter in our world, because our world is going to become so much more complex, and this was before the pandemic, he said the people who are going to really matter are the people who can simplify the complex and often scary things that we experience, the environments that we're in, the situations that happen. Are you the clarifier? Clarify the complex or scary. 2, it's the people who will take people by the hand. So think of people as people, human to human connection. And he goes, and then be an expert. Show them the path that you have established to a better way of life. So I know that's what you do every day. You clarify the complex and scary. You think about people. You take them by the hand, and then you show them a path that as an expert, you have worn this path that they can follow to a better life. So I'm grateful to be here. You know, I speak to a lot of different groups, but it's so much more fun for me when I get to speak to people who are actually digging in and truly helping people. 4 weeks ago, I was speaking in Vegas to a group of slot machine salesmen. I'm grateful to be here. All right. Top 3 energizers at work. I love research, and I'm helping you clarify. It's not what we think energizes you at work, but what we know. Okay. Number 1 is a meaning orientation. Number 1 energizer at work. So here's what happened. Okay. Actually, let's do this. I want to stop, share. Let's have a little face to face, right? Here's the thing. Whenever I try to find solutions for people, clarify the complex, take you by the hand, show you the path, I do go to research because I want to be really confident in the solutions that I suggest. And really, you know, basically you will go, oh yeah, this works. Research shows this works. And I've seen this work in people's lives this way. Okay, so I'm going to share with you one of my favorite studies. Portland State University of Michigan came together. They took 262 people like you, knowledge workers, people that have to really use their brain to accomplish things, thinking constantly, making decisions, complex cognition. All right. So they took those people and they first did a kind of an emotional assessment on them. And they basically asked them, when you're at work, how do you feel most of the time? What's the leading emotion? How do you feel, most of the time at work? Okay, so they took these 262 people that did the same work in the same amount, at the same career level, same pay level, same success level. They were the same. But for some reason, when they took their answers and they could separate them clearly into 2 groups. Group 1, they called the strugglers. And so these are people who are at the same success level, but they reported that most of the time at work, I feel overwhelmed, anxious, exhausted, right? Disconnected. So that is, we don't want that, right? We've all felt that and we all will feel that, but we don't want that to be our leading, most common emotion. All right. So then they looked at the other group that they called the thrivers. Now, the thrivers, they reported most of the time at work, they feel focused, clear, enthusiastic, energized, connected. That's the juice that we want. So I was like, well, that's cool. They identified these two things. But then as I read the next paragraph in this research study, they did the hard part. They went out into the real world and actually followed people to see exactly what they did. You know, they didn't guess what they did, they followed them, did surveys, and they figured out when those people were at work, what did they do to re-energize themselves? How did they think? What did they do? Right? And this is an important conversation for us because so many well-intentioned, good, hardworking, conscientious people with the best of intentions choose to de-energize themselves unknowingly. Okay, it just happens. So before I tell you what the thrivers do to totally energize themselves, we know works. Let's think about what the strugglers do. What do you think if someone who's at work, who's trying hard, working hard, and they need energy at work, and they do it? What do you think that they do that doesn't work? What do you think people that try to get energy at work in a way that really totally doesn't work? All right, Sarah, you guys are so quick on this. Yes, Sarah, Deanna, Jerry. Okay, so you guys both nailed it. Also, Terry, though, go on social media. That's a real common, also, it's a real common response. And, 9 out of 10 times, that's going to be a de-energizer. Okay, but let's just talk about coffee for a second, because a lot of times people will think about caffeine in the wrong way. You may have had a stress expert or a productivity expert tell you that you really shouldn't drink coffee. And the next time someone tells you that you shouldn't drink coffee, that it's not good for you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to say, hey, listen, you should probably go get some coffee and reread the research. I do it all the time. They go, what? I say, pick it up. We gotta go because, okay, so if you look at research on caffeine, there's a 20-year longitudinal study, followed people for 20 years. They found out that people that drank 3 to 4 regular drip coffee cups, around 18 ounces of regular strength drip coffee, had a reduced incidence of heart disease, stroke, some forms of cancer, Alzheimer's. I mean, there's powerful antioxidants in coffee and tea. Now, I'm just going to here tell you there's no really great antioxidants in Red Bull. Just say it, okay? But if you get it through coffee or tea, there's powerful antioxidants in there. And if you drink, around up to 3 to 400, depending on who you are, some people shouldn't drink coffee. They're just too sensitive, and that's cool, right? If you've got tons of energy, don't drink coffee. If you're sensitive to coffee, don't drink coffee or tea. Don't do it. But if you are doing it, do it smart. And the way you do that is up to 3 to 400 milligrams. That's about 18 ounces of drip coffee per day. Now, if you want to do it like a pro, shut it down by 1 p.m. because caffeine in your system has a half-life of 6 hours. No, is it 6? Yeah, half-life of 6 hours. So that means whatever caffeine you do, let's say you did a caffeine at 3 o'clock, half of that caffeine is still in your body 6 hours later. So 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, you're trying to sleep and you still have too much underlying stimulation in your body. I know you're saying, well, I can drink coffee and go straight to sleep. And I believe you. When I'm in Europe, people say that all the time. And I was like, yeah, I know, but you're just not going to sleep well. And then they hate me. Okay. All right. Yeah, Shauna, I know. Yay for coffee. It's one of those things that, yeah, it definitely can. I'm not meaning to suck up to the audience, but it works. I got some other things coming though. But all right. I want you to think about coffee from that perspective. 3 to 400 milligrams, about 18 ounces of regular drip coffee a day, especially before 1 p.m., actually can be a productive and healthy part of your day. Okay? But that's 3 to 400 milligrams. I know a lot of people do way more than that. As a matter of fact, did you know that caffeine is an illegal performance enhancing drug in the Olympics? In the Olympics, if you had that amount right before you did a race, 3 to 400 milligrams, and they tested you, you would get banned. Yeah, but here's the cool part, interesting part. French cyclists got caught with not 3 to 400, but 3,000 milligram caffeine suppositories. Yeah, don't do that. That is a terrible, terrible idea. Marie's going to get her second cup of coffee. Just don't do the suppository, Marie. I'm just saying. Okay. Yikes. Seriously, Amber, I know. Okay. So caffeine can be a productive part of your day, but in this study, Portland State University, what really energizes us, it was on the struggler list. And I think that's because people are thinking about how you think about it, the context within how you do caffeine. If you do caffeine, it's like a normal part of your day. I think it's wonderful. But if you do caffeine through coffee or tea, if you do it like, oh man, I'm so tired, I don't have what I need inside of me, I'm going to go do that, then that's actually a negative emotional trigger. Because what you're saying to yourself is that you don't have what you need inside of you, and you do. Yeah, you do. So I don't want you to say, I need this. Just say, I'm going to go do this. It'll help. Yeah, not I need it. Okay, just a small variation in how you talk to yourself that makes a big difference. Okay, so let's go back to our slides here, wherever they went. Okay. Sorry about that. My thing went berserk. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to go back to sharing my screen. And share screen, and share screen, and share screen. Okay, all right. So Portland State University of Michigan, they found that if you distract yourself when you need energy, like I need a break, you do caffeine, you check your email, you switch tasks. I wanted to go check that online sale. I'm going to get on social media. At best, that's just going to give you a little bit of white space, and that can be helpful. But you can take that same time and get far more energy in a very short amount of time if you are more meaning oriented, if you are clear enough on the drive behind your work, how your work connects for you, what it means. Then if you reflect on that, this research shows that the people that really thrived in a high demand job doing the same amount of work and felt energized, enthusiastic, were just clearer and reflected on the meaning of their work more often. That's something you can do. It was harder for me to get the slot machine sales guys there, but for you, this is going to be easy and doable. Okay, so we're going to reflect on meaning, the number one energizer for people who work challenging jobs. Okay, so that's my little back and forth guys here, but now we're going to go to how to actually do that. Oops, this is like going on. What's happening here? Okay, so whenever I'm sitting where you are, I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's great, Andy. I know I need to be more meaningful at work. That's the number one energizer. I didn't know that. That's interesting. But how do I actually do that? So I am frustrated when experts say, hey, you need to have more meaning in your work and passion and purpose, and good luck with that. So I want to get you more into the tactical ideas. How do you actually do it? So I dug into that research, actually found out what the thrivers were doing. When they say they're being meaning oriented at work, I'm like, how do you do that? What are you exactly doing? And so this is what I've all those responses, I was able to crunch them all into three general things, three thoughts, three questions that you can ask yourself that will help you employ meaning orientation, employ the number one energizer. And we're going to go to the first one, and I want you to get your chat fingers ready, okay? Because I want you to be able to say here what brings you joy at work. When you're at work and you feel happiness, what are you doing? When you feel excited, when you feel good, what are you doing or what happens? Yeah, so identify the moments that bring joy to your work. Oh, you guys are doing great. Okay, I love it. Laughing with coworkers, my great teammates, chatting with them, learning, laughing with my coworkers. It's awesome. And you know what? I love it too, because there's also another real common trend or theme popping up here, right? And that is accomplishments. And remember how we talked about the top three causes of burnout and personal accomplishment is if you're not feeling that, how that's a predictor of burnout. So when we are accomplishing things, it pushes back the feelings of burnout. It makes you more resilient. Yeah, so I love that one too. Laughing with my coworkers, that's connection. Learning something new, you're going to see that's a big deal. Onboarding new employees, I like that too, because that also is a sense of connection with people and of accomplishment. Helping people with a problem, love it. You guys are doing so good. I mean, there's a lot of people that are talking about, connecting, bonding with their coworkers. And I'm just here to tell you that it sounds really positive for you, that I see this. It makes me feel really a lot more hopeful for you, because the thing is remember I talked about connection as being one of the biggest problems right now, and one of the most important things for people who are working challenging jobs. So I think we're going to talk more about that. Okay, fun with coworkers, being out of time, finishing tasks before deadline. That's personal accomplishment. Okay, I call it mowing the lawn. You see the finished product. Oh, I love that, because I do the same thing. Right? It's awesome. Okay, this is a kind of a side note, a little bonus tip for you, but I want to ask you this. Do you have a hobby that you engage in regularly? The research hasn't shown this yet, but I believe that if you don't have a hobby, it's going to make it a lot harder to stay motivated. And I love hobbies where you can see a finished product. If your work is sometimes, if reward, if you know, if accomplishment isn't easy to define, if progress isn't easy to define, I mean, it's so important for me. My hobby is working with this new kinds of concrete. I built this cool concrete facade around my fireplace. I'm building this cool outdoor concrete fireplace. And it allows me, as someone who's in my head 24/7 with my work, I also am able then to do something with my hands and see a finished product. So if you don't have a hobby, I highly encourage you to develop one. And if you have a hobby and haven't done it for a while, this is your push to get into it. Oh man, I love it. Okay, so yeah, I like this. So writing, car detailing, Ben, that's great, man, because then you get to see an amazing finished product. That's great. Writing, excellent. Gardening, grilling, baking, working in the yard, meditative. 100% believe that. 100% believe that. I garden as well with my youngest daughter, Camille, and it's one of my. It's she's 14 now. It's the only way I can get her to talk to me at this point. So I would not give up gardening for love nor money. So, but I also think exercise is a great way to, is a great hobby as well, because it flushes out our stress hormones and gives us a sense of accomplishment. Cooking, love it. I'm actually, over the pandemic, I was either going to, like, 98% of my business was in person meetings. So it's a good thing I'm a stress expert. The thing is, though, is I was either, after I sat in the corner for a week, depressed, I got out of the corner and I said, all right, I'm either going to, Andy, practice what you preach. Instead of fear of the future, I thought about, what can I learn here? So I learned virtual presenting. I learned new forms of technology. I learned cooking. I learned more into my concrete. I learned different kind of digital animation. I'm doing some cool projects on how to explain that to people, how to explain things through digital animation. So I started doing all that. I bought this little outdoor walk, and now I've actually become pretty decent at traditional Asian cooking, and my family benefits. So if you want a great way, I think, to improve your resiliency in a time of so much uncertainty, is pick a hobby that helps you produce something that you're proud of, and just to learn, it'll help. Thank you for engaging so much. Yoga, crochet, getting outdoors. I know a speaker who crochets before her speech. She just sits there and crochets, and I think it lets her mind relax and it opens her up. Opens her up to being more in the moment when she starts speaking. It's cool. Quilting, walking. You guys are great. I love it. Okay, so, but here's what I want you to do as a professional. My strong recommendation for you is to identify three things. It's homework. Identify three things, three situations at work that bring you joy. What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? What's the actual activity? What happens? Identify these three joyous moments, and you can use the after you clarify them, you can use them. All right, we're going to go to the next, and that is congruent. So, what do you do at work that supports who you are, what you believe in as a person? When is your work tracking with who you are? Now, my slot machine salesman had a hard time with this. Yeah, and they challenged me a little bit, but and we worked through that, because you have to identify think about this. If you wanted to be motivated at work and someone asked you to do something that didn't really track with your personal values, you're not going to be motivated. But if you do something If you're a part of a team, a project, working with a specific person whose needs match what you believe in, it's incredibly motivating. And what I found for most people is that they are doing work that tracks with who they are. They just haven't clarified it. So they're leaving tons of that motivation and energy and resiliency just on the table because they haven't clarified it. So my question for my homework for you here is what do you do at work that supports what you believe in? I mean, helping people is the obvious one. And I want to say, okay, specifically, how do you help people? Right? Nail that down. I mean, to list like, yes, Sinead, listen, support others, listening to others. See, that's great. You guys are what you believe in is being present, hearing people, and then supporting them. That's a big part of who I am as well. So I think that's wonderful. And in fact, when you clarify that, it's a strength of yours. Okay. Spreadsheets and calculations to get the answers, Sarah. You're also like, yes, right? Because data clarifies. Data is clarity, and clarity is energy in a complex world. Okay, yeah, I like that. Respond in a timely fashion. I believe in being punctual. I bet you believe that being punctual is a sign of respect. Yeah? So I think that's wonderful. Okay, N. Smith, we're going to talk about venting in a little while, but we need a better word. Okay, all right, very good. So clarify for you when you're being congruent. I'm going to give you a quick story. I think it'll really help you about how, whenever I'm sitting where you are, I also want to know all right, speaker boy, do you practice what you preach? And I do. So I'll fall victim to the same problems, patterns, but I also practice what I preach, and it truly does help. So when am I being congruent as a professional? So I'll tell you the story. I went from being a researcher to a professional speaker. That was a pretty big leap, a change. So I thought I need to beta test my product. So I designed my speech, best possible speech I could. I begged my way into speaking in front of 120 professional speakers. Now, if you want to get nervous, speak in front of your peers. But I did it because they promised real, solid, helpful, not glazed over, real feedback. And and I encourage you to provide feedback on this program too. If there's something that you did that I didn't like, if there's something that you did that I did that you really did connect with, if you would like to hear more of this kind of thing, make sure you communicate that, because I want to know what you connected with you, what disconnected, right? So I did that with these professional speakers. I did my presentation. I got the evaluations back. The very first evaluation said, it was really annoying how often he licked his lips. As a stress expert, I know what's going on. I was too nervous. Triggers my sympathetic nervous system. When that happens, it makes your mouth dry out. And I was licking my lips. I must have been licking my lips like a lemur. I was so nervous. All right. So I identified what the problem was. I'm too nervous. So one of my mentors was there, Hall of Fame speaker, psychologist, a guy named Dr. Terry Paulson. So I said, Dr. Paulson, I'm obviously too nervous when I'm presenting. How can I fix that? And he said, Andy, if you're too nervous when you're speaking in public like this, or even in a one-to-one conversation, you're too nervous because you're thinking about yourself. I was like, oh. He goes, if you want to improve your communication skills, you need to clarify where you're coming from. And he goes, I say it as a prayer. Now, he says it as a prayer. I say it as a prayer, but you can certainly say it just as a personal mantra, right? Or in Arkansas, we say a mantra, whichever you prefer. So for me, before I did this presentation, I was thinking about you as people, and I thought to myself, okay, serve, not shine. How can I actually help these people? So please, Lord, help me serve, not shine. And so my personal belief, my personal mantra, what I know is makes me congruent in my work and what I believe in is serve, not shine. The more I can get myself out of the picture, the more I can actually help someone, the better off my life is actually. So if you don't have a way to think about how your work follows what you believe in, I suggest that you start with serve, not shine. It's a great place to start from. And you know what? I want to make sure that these ideas are totally tactical for you. So in my book, Change Your Day, Not Your Life, I outline this idea that the first thought of your day is the most important thought of your day. And if you look at the science of of motivation, of behavioral activation, of behavioral momentum, what makes people start and continue on a positive path, right? And a big piece of it is the first thought. The first thought that you think when you wake, the first thought that you think right as you begin your work or as you're walking into work, the first thought that you think as you transition to your loved ones, the first thought that you think right before you lie down to go to bed, those thoughts are the most powerful. They're amazingly powerful. So I'm a big believer in identifying those. So a waking thought, well, you know what? Let's do this real quick. That might help cement this for you. Get your chat hands ready because I want you to think about this question and then answer it so we can all share. On a typical work day, when your alarm goes off, your brain wakes up, what's the very first thought that enters your mind? What's your waking thought? I love your honesty, people. Yes. I hope the kids are sleeping. Yes, right? Already crap. Oh my God. Brush my teeth. Colleen, that's a good thing to do. All right. I need to go more sleep. All right. Okay, people. I see a lot of snooze. This is not a judgment. It's just a pure scientific fact. The snooze button is secretly plotting to destroy you. Okay. All right. Did you know that let's do another quick hypothetical to nail this. Yeah. Because if you come away from my program with how to re-energize yourself, to understand, if you're feeling burnout and some ideas on how to improve that, and then some good daily takeaways, then I consider that a great use of your time. So let's nail this waking thought, okay? Because snooze is the second most common waking thought. I ask this of thousands of people every year. And what's your waking thought? And snooze is always number two, right? Sometimes number one, sometimes number three. On average, it's two. That's crazy. All right. So then I say, okay, snooze, it's secretly, it's messing you up. And they're like, hey, okay, so let's nail it then. I want you to get ready. You're going to put your answer in the chat box. You're going to have a multiple choice. You have to choose one of three. Okay. So here's what I want you to picture. You are an action hero in an action movie, but the villain has captured you, and the villain is going to torture you. And to be extra villainous, the villain is going to give you your choice of three tortures. Choice number one, bamboo shoots jammed under the fingernails. Okay. Choice number two, high-powered electric shocks to the groin. Choice number three, sleep deprivation. Okay, put in the chat box which you would choose. One, bamboo. Two, shocks to the groin. Three, sleep deprivation. I've seen a couple bamboos in there. There's always a few people with severe emotional problems. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. All right, Shelly, you can't choose none of them. You're gonna get tortured. So come on, choose one. All right, so this is what I see most of the time. Selena, I'm just here to say you chose number two. Just clarify, you chose electric shocks to the groin. Okay, it's really funny though. Whenever I do this, there's always this one guy in the audience who goes, "How much voltage we talking?" I'm like, "Sir, that's inappropriate." Okay. I know how I am after sleep deprivation, Terry. I prefer bamboos. Honestly, that would be me too, man. After you've had young kids that don't sleep well, then you're like, sleep is a luxury. Okay, thank you for doing that. Here's the thing. Sleep deprivation is the most effective form of torture. It breaks people mentally, emotionally, physically, even biochemically faster than any other torture. And you know how they do sleep deprivation torture? They wait till you're just about asleep and wake you up. Just about asleep. I'll tell you whenever you want to. So the snooze button is the most effective form of torture, of actual torture. So, all right, so you just got to take your alarm clock, put it on the other side of the room, or your phone. If you have the phone next to you, definitely put it on the other side of the room. So that way you get up, when the alarm goes off, you get up, you walk over, you turn it off. A little positive motion creates positive emotion, and you're on your way. This one lady said, well, Andy, I'm going to walk over there, hit snooze, and go back to bed. And I said, all right, well, then I need to escalate you to level 2. And that I had her buy this thing called the Clocky. And the Clocky is an alarm clock with wheels. So whenever it goes off, it jumps off your bedside table and is running around the room beeping. You got to catch it. to turn it off. This one guy said, that would work for me, Andy, one time. All right. So, but my point is that we've got to, when you wake up, it's got to get up. And when you get up, you have to have an optimal waking thought that will energize you. It actually has been shown to increase your overall work motivation big time in the first hour, and even last into the last hour of work if you master that moment. Okay, so what's the best waking thought? It's not number one, I got to rush, go, go. It's not two, snooze. It's not three. The third most common waking thought is, whew, I got to pee. And I saw several of those. Peeing is important. It's just not motivating, okay? So how do we motivate ourselves optimally in the morning? And you think about a meaning-oriented thought. You think about what brings you joy. You think about how it connects you with your values, how you are following what you believe in. That's incredibly powerful. And then you could think about, how am I a part of something bigger than me? That's incredibly powerful, right? So if my homework for you is identify 3 things that shows that what brings me joy at work. Identify specifically at least one area that when you do this at work, it tracks with what you believe in. And then number 3, identify 1 or 2, or if you want to be extra credit, 3 ways that you are part of something bigger than yourself, specifically, right? I know your organization in general, what you do in general is part of something bigger than yourself. But I want you to think about your job, how you are a part, how you contribute to something bigger than you. And you will not struggle, you will thrive. You will not be tired, drained, overwhelmed. You'll be focused, enthusiastic, energized, creative, right? Okay, and here's how you take that and put this into your daily life. Anytime you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, you can ask yourself these questions, and it will trigger a meaning orientation, which is the number 1 energizer. All right, then here's another tactical idea for you. Remember, I said, what's the most important part of your day? It's your waking thought. So how can you do a waking thought? Meaning oriented, right? So mine, it's serve, not shine. But you see, I'm always trying to find ways to enhance, improve these ideas. So I learned about this thing called the Duchenne smile. Now, the Duchenne smile is what actors use when they have to get into a really positive emotional state. Like if they have to go act in love or happy or excited, they'll do this right before they begin their scene. And what they do is they smile as big as they can, and they even get a pen and jam it in their mouth so they can get their smile bigger, because the bigger your smile is, it's an active biofeedback loop. The bigger you smile, the more happy it makes your brain. It's crazy. So I'm going to combine those 2 things. I'm going to practice what I preach. The next morning, I'm lying in bed, my alarm goes off, I flip it off, and I say to myself, I'm going, serve, not shine. And I smile as big as I can. And my wife just happened to look over and she goes, forget about it. Like, what? I'm not even talking to you. Okay, I digress. Let's go back to the top 3 energizers. You can ask yourself these questions and energize yourself no matter what, no matter where. And you can also use these as reflective questions when you talk to other people. If you have a team meeting, these are 3 good questions to workshop. And you cross-pollinate answers, you come together as a team. It's a great way to increase positive energy in the workforce or team. Okay, great. We're doing awesome. We're right on schedule. Okay, so number 2, remember my Portland State, there were 3 things, top 3 energizers. The first is a meaning orientation. The second is a learning orientation. And man, I've already seen so many Thriver responses in the chat, because learning something with my teammates, that's wonderful. Okay, because here's what we know. The strugglers, whenever their stress hits, they think, oh my gosh, what happens if I miss my goal? Even what happens if I make my goal? And they're all in this worry mindset. That's the struggler mindsets. Okay, so when something challenging happens, or you feel overloaded, or you're like worried about deadlines, you could focus on worry, or you could think, okay, what can I learn from this situation? Or even reflect on, what have I learned about these types of situations in the past? Yeah, what have I learned about this? What do I need to learn to improve this situation? And when you do that, it triggers your brain, because it puts you into what the psychologists call a learner's orientation. And a learner's orientation is the second fastest way to increase energy at work. Yeah, So instead of whenever you find yourself worrying, go, oh, okay, no, I don't want to be in this worry state, struggler. I want to be, okay, what have I learned about this situation in the past? And what do I need to learn now from now to learn to improve this? And that's a powerful trigger. And it's also a powerful trigger when you're leading other people, trying to motivate other people because they're going to come in worried. And you can go, I totally see your worry, but you know what? What have you learned about from this in the past? Or let me tell you what I've learned about this situation in the past. What do we need to do what do we need to learn from here? And that basically it basically, what's the word? Transforms people from worry, procrastination, into focused on proactivity, on learning, on motivation. Yeah, it really works. Okay, let's go down to the last piece. The third energizer, it's a collaboration orientation. And now here's the thing. I saw someone post vent. Sometimes you need to vent. And I 100% agree. Sometimes you do need to vent, but not at work. Because this research, Portland State University of Michigan found that the one break that had the biggest double negative, it reduced your mental vitality and your physical energy. The one thing that reduced those things the most was venting at work. Now, I need to define venting for you, just so that we're super clear, because venting is defined as expressing frustration without the intention of finding a solution. Now, if you just need to express frustration, then you need to save that for your loved ones, friends, family, or work people outside of work. But if at work, that is a significant de-energizer. Now, I have a lot of managers debate me on this and say, Andy, listening to people vent is part of being a good manager. I say, I actually 100% disagree with that. Listening to people, a great manager will hear what they're saying and then show them a better path, right? Transform that moment into proactivity. And how you do that, a great way to do that is to push people towards collaboration or drive yourself towards collaboration. And how you do that is real simple. You just ask yourself, who can help with this? So if someone came to me and said, Andy, I've got all this, I've got this, this situation's happening, I feel overloaded, I'm like, oh man, I totally hear you. Okay, who can help you with that? And they're gonna go, nobody can. And then I was like, no, really, who can help you with that? And they're gonna, oh. And then I'm gonna say, you know what? Remember, serve, not shine. I'm gonna say, who can you help? Who can you team up with and help them as well? And then all of a sudden that shifts people out of fear into proactivity. I mean, I know these solutions that I'm providing for you, sometimes you might think that's common sense. And if you put in the evaluations of this program that guy from Arkansas was really simple, I'll take that as a compliment because it's clear and it's usable. These really are usable ideas. So whenever you feel tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, you can think about meaning orientation. What brings me joy at work? How am I following how does my work support what I actually believe in? Am I congruent? How am I part of something bigger than me? Then you could also think, God, all this is going on. What have I learned about this in the past? Or what do I need to learn now for the future? Or you can say, you know what, who can help me with this? Or let me get out of my own way and who can I help? Those 7 questions employ the top 3 energizers proven to energize you at work. Yeah, it's super good, super helpful. Okay, so that was my key message for you today. I want to make sure that when we jump in to if you have questions, I want to hear them. If you have thoughts, I want to hear them. Okay. Okay, excellent, Sarah. What I find frustrating is when people come to me to help, but I'm unable to help, and I'm not sure of things. Yeah. Okay. I love that you'll share that because a lot of times people don't like to admit when they don't know stuff. But one of the most effective ways to increase connection with people is to admit you don't know. Because they're like, huh. Like I say, you know what? I don't know, but I'll find out for you. Or let's find out together. Or who can help us with this? And I think that let's learn together. That turns what could be seen as a weakness that you don't know into a collaboration opportunity. And the best leaders are the ones who will tell you with certainty what they know and admit when they don't. But then admit that they don't, and then show a learner's orientation to always, they're going to dive in and help. If it's valid, we're gonna figure this out. I love it. Okay. New goal. I'm going to become a thriver. Yes, Jerry, I love it. I will always say, Amber says, I will always say, I don't know, but let me find out for you. See, it's just like that. But it's especially if you're new in a job or if you're the leader in an organization or a team, it's easy to let fear drive you into not admitting when you don't know. But I'm telling you, if you effectively communicate that you don't know and that you're willing to figure it out, it is a leadership enhancer, it is a communication enhancer, it is a relationship developer. Pardon me. And it's also, it makes you have greater overall influence. Kelly says, same. If I try to give information when I don't really have a good grasp of what I'm talking about, it's immediately frustrating. You know, it's one of my roommates in college, he was the worst at this because he was a very persuasive guy and he did not like to admit when he didn't know something. So if you asked him something he didn't know, he would just make up something and tell you with conviction. So once I figured that out, and I was like, oh, he sounds good. Like he knows that. But after I figured that out, I was like, I can't trust anything you say. So that's great. That's a great question. I love questions. I love your feedback. I would love to make sure that and stay connected with you. Obviously, I have tons of information to share, but I definitely want to be respectful of your time. So I believe I'm coming up. Is that correct? I'm coming up at the end of my allotted time frame.
Yes, that is correct, Andy.
All right, good. Well, I want to respect your time and your schedule, but I also want to offer you this too, okay? Because whenever I watch a program and I get some good ideas, I'm like, you know what? If you want to learn more, I have some free ways to do that. Yeah. So if you want to email me directly, me and my team, we will shoot you an email with I built a new free 4-week email course on how to change your day. I'm not selling you anything. I've got nothing to sell you. It's kind of a problem for my business. But here's the thing. So if you email Andy at andycorr.com, I will get you signed up for that 4-week email list. And also, you'll receive those emails from me and you can respond to me personally with questions or if you want workarounds on this information or what you learned there. And then also too, a little favor, whenever you send me that email, if you know of another group where my message might be a good fit, please just put an S or speaker in your email and I will send you some of that additional info as well as the course. All right. So I like to end with gratitude. So thank you so much for the work that you do. Thank you for being with me today and making time with me. And thank you for what you're going to do. So count me as a resource, everybody. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andy. We've